The unseen threat. Earth had always been a peaceful place, far away from the battles of the universe. The people lived their lives, oblivious to the strange forces that circled in the vast emptiness of space. Little did they know that their planet was about to become the target of a ruthless alien fleet. Out there, in the dark corners of the galaxy, an alien empire watched Earth closely. To them, Earth was a mere speck in the universe, a backward, primitive planet that posed no real threat. The humans were still using outdated technology, clinging to old weapons that had long been forgotten by the advanced species. The aliens laughed at the idea of Earth putting up a fight. How could a planet like that stand against the might of their superior forces? Among the alien leaders, there was one who seemed especially confident. His name was Gorek, the supreme commander of the Xalran Empire. He had seen countless planets fall before his empire, each one weaker than the last. Earth, in his eyes, was no different. He smiled as he addressed his fellow commanders. "They still use relics from ancient wars," Gorek said with a cruel grin. "Their so-called weapon is nothing more than a broken ship from the past. We will take this planet without effort." The alien generals around him nodded, agreeing with his assessment. They were already planning their attack, sure that their victory would be swift. The fleet was massive, hundreds of ships ready to unleash destruction upon Earth. It was a plan they had been waiting for, and they were eager to begin. Back on Earth, no one could have guessed that such an attack was coming. The humans went about their daily routines, unaware of the looming danger. But hidden deep beneath the surface of the planet, in a secret military base, something was stirring. A forgotten relic of the past, an ancient warship, began to hum with power, its long dormant systems flickering to life. This ship, known as the Aegis, was a warship from a time before most humans could remember. It had been built in an era of great conflict, designed to be Earth's ultimate weapon. But after the war ended, the ship was abandoned and left to rust in a forgotten hangar, its purpose lost to history. But something was changing. The systems inside the ship, once shut down, were beginning to reactivate. The engineers in charge of maintaining the base had no idea what was happening. They had assumed the warship was a relic, a piece of history with no real function. But now its lights were flickering, its engines thrumming with energy, and its weapon systems were coming online. It all started with a strange signal, a low hum that echoed through the base, growing louder and louder until it reached the ears of the military command. It was impossible to ignore. The engineers rushed to the warship, unsure of what to expect. Was it just a glitch, or was something far more dangerous at work? Meanwhile, in the alien fleet, Gorek and his commanders were preparing for their invasion. They saw no need for caution. Earth had no defense, no chance of surviving the wrath of the Xalran Empire. As they drew closer to Earth's orbit, the invasion plans were set into motion. The first wave of alien ships was ready to strike, and the countdown to destruction had begun. But something strange was happening. Just as the Xalran ships entered the outer reaches of Earth's space, the unthinkable occurred. The Aegis sent out a powerful pulse of energy, lighting up the space around it. The aliens were shocked. They had expected the planet to be defenseless. But now, they were sensing something that could change everything. At the military base, alarms began to blare. The engineers scrambled to understand what was going on. The ship's systems were coming online faster than they could track, and before they knew it, the warship had fully activated. A series of powerful weapons powered up, sending a shockwave through the base. It was clear. The Aegis was no longer just a relic. It was a weapon, one that had been waiting for this moment for centuries. But the alien fleet had no idea what was happening. They had not yet realized that Earth's greatest weapon was now awake. As far as they were concerned, the planet was still vulnerable, still ripe for conquest. They continued their course, unaware that the humans had just unlocked their last line of defense. Back on Earth, the military was in full alert. Commanders rushed to the war room, unsure of what to do. The Aegis was a legend, a ship that no one had believed could still be operational. But now it was fully alive, and it was ready for battle. "Prepare the ship," the commander ordered, his voice tense. "We don't know what's coming, but we have to be ready." The engineers worked frantically to get the ship ready for whatever threat was coming. It was a race against time. The alien fleet was closing in, and Earth's defenses were weak. The Aegis might be their only chance to survive. As the alien fleet descended upon Earth, Gorak stood at the helm of his flagship, confident that victory was at hand. He watched as his ships prepared for the final strike, ready to crush Earth beneath their boot. But deep inside the ancient warship, the engines roared to life, and humanity's most powerful weapon was ready to defend its home. The first wave of aliens fired their weapons, confident in their power. But Earth was not so easily conquered. The Aegis had awakened, and its roar was heard across the stars. What the aliens had mocked as a simple relic was now Earth's greatest hope, and as the alien fleet approached, they would soon learn that underestimating humanity was a mistake they would never forget. The awakening. The Aegis hummed with an unfamiliar power, its systems awakening from centuries of dormancy. Inside the underground military base, engineers scrambled to figure out what was happening. They had long since abandoned any hope of seeing the old warship come to life. For years, it had been nothing more than a rusting relic, buried in the shadows of Earth's forgotten wars. But now, its engines roared to life, and a strange energy surged through its corridors. The hum grew louder, filling the air with a sense of power that no one had expected. The base commander, General Harris, rushed into the control room, his face etched with confusion. He had received reports of strange power readings coming from the warship, but he had dismissed them as a glitch. Now, there was no denying it. The Aegis was no longer just a monument to the past. It was alive, and it was preparing for something. "We've got to get to the ship now," General Harris barked, his voice filled with urgency. As the engineers and military personnel rushed to the warship, a strange feeling settled over them. It was as if the Aegis itself had been waiting for this moment, patiently biding its time. The ship had been built for a time of great conflict, but it had been abandoned long before it could see its true purpose. Now, with the alien fleet approaching, it was ready to fulfill its destiny. In the command center, the human military leaders were still in disbelief. The reports about the Aegis were starting to trickle in, but no one knew exactly what to make of them. The warship was an enigma, an ancient machine built by a civilization that had long since vanished. It had been left behind, a forgotten relic in the annals of Earth's history. But now, it was as if it had been waiting for a sign to awaken. "The alien fleet is almost here," General Harris muttered to himself, staring at the holographic display of the incoming ships. "And we got nothing to stop them, except the Aegis." He had no idea what to expect. The Aegis was untested, its capabilities unknown. It had been left in storage for so long that no one even knew if it would function properly. But now, as the alien fleet drew closer, it was the only hope Earth had. Meanwhile, far out in space, the alien fleet was nearing Earth's orbit. The Xalran Empire's ships glided silently through the void, each one a marvel of alien engineering. Gorak, the supreme commander, stood at the helm of the flagship, his mind already focused on the easy victory that awaited them. The Earthlings were no match for the might of the Xalran Empire. The planet's defenses were non-existent, and their so-called warship, the Aegis, was nothing more than a relic of a forgotten age. "They won't even know what hit them," Gorak chuckled to his officers, his voice dripping with disdain. "Prepare for full-scale bombardment. Earth will fall before the day is done." His fleet was massive, hundreds of ships, all equipped with advanced weaponry. They had studied Earth's defenses in detail, and there was no sign of anything that could pose a threat. The alien forces were confident, too confident. They were about to learn a hard lesson. But just as they neared Earth, something unexpected happened. The Aegis, The so-called Relic that had been written off as a useless, outdated weapon suddenly sent out a pulse of energy that rippled across the void. It wasn't just a signal. It was a force, a surge of power that cut through space itself. What was that? One of Gorak's officers asked, alarmed. I don't know, Gorak responded, his calm demeanor faltering for a moment. But stay alert. It's coming from the planet's surface. The pulse wasn't like anything the Xalran Empire had ever encountered. It was a strange, almost ancient form of energy, powerful, but not of their time. The fleet's sensors picked up on the signal, but they couldn't trace its origin. They knew it was coming from Earth, but where? Back on Earth, the Aegis continued to power up, its systems humming with life. Inside the warship, its once dormant AI came online, its voice echoing through the ship's vast corridors. System restoration complete. All systems operational, the AI's calm voice echoed, sending a chill through the command center. The warship was ready. It was no longer a relic of the past. It had become Earth's last line of defense. In the control room, General Harris and his team watched as the holographic map of the alien fleet appeared before them. It was massive, an overwhelming force heading straight for Earth. Their options were limited. They had no military power capable of stopping the fleet, no way to defend the planet from the alien onslaught. But now, they had the Aegis. Activate the warship, General Harris ordered, his voice firm. It's our only chance. Outside, the Aegis rumbled to life, its engines roaring as it slowly began to move. The warship, with its massive hull and ancient design, appeared to be an unyielding fortress in space. It was old, yes, but there was a power within it that had been waiting to be unleashed. The alien fleet drew closer, unaware of the awakening power that was waiting for them. As the Aegis moved into position, the humans began to realize the full weight of what they had. The warship was a symbol of Earth's forgotten strength, a reminder of their resilience. And now, with their backs against the wall, humanity was ready to stand and fight. The Aegis was no longer just a ship. It was a message to the aliens. Earth would not fall without a fight. As the alien fleet neared, Gorak's arrogance began to falter. The strange pulse that had come from Earth grew stronger, more intense. He watched in disbelief as his fleet's sensors picked up on the source. The relic was alive, and it was more than they had ever imagined. We have underestimated them, Gorak muttered under his breath, realizing that Earth might not be as defenseless as they had thought. The first volley of alien fire came, a hail of laser blasts that streaked across the sky, aimed directly at Earth. But as they neared the planet, a powerful shield, an energy barrier, appeared out of nowhere, deflecting the blasts effortlessly. The Aegis had awakened, and with it, humanity's hope for survival. The aliens had no idea what was coming for them. The Aegis had just begun to roar. This part builds on the tension and mystery surrounding the Aegis and the alien invasion, creating a sense of anticipation as the warship awakens and prepares for battle. The simplicity of the language keeps it engaging, while the suspense keeps the audience hooked. The battle begins. The massive alien fleet hovered in Earth's orbit, its sleek ships lined up like predators waiting to strike. Yet, as the Aegis powered up, it stood as a colossal shadow against the backdrop of the alien forces, a symbol of humanity's ancient resilience. General Harris stood before the holographic display, his fingers trembling slightly as he gripped the console. The first wave of alien fire had been deflected by the ship's shield, but that was just the beginning. Status report, he barked, his voice echoing in the tense silence of the command center. The engineers and military officers scrambled to monitor the warship systems. The Aegis is operational, one officer called out. Weapons online. Shield system is holding. But we're facing a force much larger than expected. A blast of cold fear washed over the room. They knew the alien fleet was large, but this overwhelming sight was like a tidal wave about to crash over them. Harris swallowed his doubt, forcing himself to remain calm. Bring up targeting systems. We won't let them get close. Outside, the Aegis started to move, its massive engines roaring to life as it ascended from the surface of Earth, breaking through the atmosphere. The warship had the power of a forgotten era, but its design was timeless, built for battle, built to fight when all seemed lost. Now that battle was about to begin. As the Aegis cut through the sky, the alien fleet watched in confusion. This ancient warship, a relic from a bygone age, was moving. Galactic, the supreme commander of the Salran Empire, had underestimated Earth's capabilities. His eyes narrowed as he observed the Aegis from his flagship. This was no ordinary ship. It was far more advanced than anything the humans had used in centuries. "What is this madness?" Galactic muttered to himself. "A relic does not belong here." But there was no time for hesitation. Orders were barked over the comms, and the Salran fleet opened fire. The void lit up with the fury of energy beams as the alien ships unleashed a storm of destruction. Their weapons were powerful, far beyond anything humanity had faced, but the Aegis was ready. The first wave of alien fire collided with the ship's energy shield, sending shockwaves through the atmosphere. The shield flared brightly, absorbing the impact with astonishing efficiency. The Aegis shook, but it held steady, like an ancient titan that had long been forgotten but was now awakened to show the universe its true power. "Fire," General Harris ordered. The Aegis responded, its own weapon systems coming to life. Huge turrets on the sides of the warship turned and locked onto the alien fleet. Then, with a deafening roar, massive energy cannons fired. The beams of concentrated energy cut through space, arcing toward the alien ships. A few Salran ships attempted evasive maneuvers, but the precision of the Aegis's weapons was unmatched. One alien vessel, trying to outflank the warship, was struck head-on by a beam, and its hull exploded in a shower of debris. The rest of the fleet was momentarily stunned, and that brief hesitation would cost them dearly. "Target their command ship," Harris shouted. The Aegis swung around, focusing its fire on Galactic's flagship. The energy blasts tore through the void, slamming into the alien ship's shields with tremendous force. Despite the superior technology of the Salran fleet, they were unprepared for the ferocity of the human warship. The flagship trembled under the onslaught, and alarms blared as the damage reports came flooding in. Galactic's face twisted with fury. He had never encountered an enemy like this. The Aegis was not a relic. It was a nightmare brought back from the past, and it was out for blood. "Deploy all interceptors," he ordered, his voice filled with a rare sense of urgency. Salran fighter ships poured out from the fleet, flying at breakneck speeds toward the Aegis. Their weapons fired in rapid succession, streaking across the sky like deadly streaks of light. But humanity's warship had been designed for conflict at all levels, and it was more than capable of handling this kind of threat. "Activate countermeasures," General Harris said, his eyes never leaving the display. The Aegis released a cloud of defensive drones. They swarmed out in perfect formation, creating a web of rapid, interwoven movements. The alien interceptors attempted to dive into the formation, but the drones were relentless. One by one, the alien ships were destroyed in a flash of light as the drones used the Aegis's advanced laser systems to obliterate them. Despite the chaos, the Aegis pressed on. It was more than just a ship. It was the embodiment of Earth's spirit. The battle raged on, each side exchanging fire with relentless intensity. The Salran Empire's fleet was vast, but the humans had something the aliens had not counted on: determination. As the Aegis tore through the alien forces, it became clear that the battle would not be won by sheer numbers alone. The Salran fleet may have had superior firepower, but humanity had ingenuity, courage, and a deep-rooted will to survive. Back on Earth, civilians watched in awe as the sky flickered with the light of battle. People huddled together in homes, praying and hoping that their ancestors' relic, the Aegis, would be enough to save them. They had long forgotten what it felt like to fight, to stand strong against a threat from the stars. But now, with the warship alive, Earth's spirit had been rekindled. As the Aegis continued to strike down alien ships, the tide of the battle began to turn. The Xalran fleet was reeling, their once confident leaders now unsure of how to handle the relentless human warship. But Gorak wasn't one to admit defeat. "This battle is not over yet," he growled. "Reinforcements will be here soon." The humans had taken a small victory, but it was clear the real battle had only just begun. The alien fleet would regroup, and Earth's fight was far from over. The Aegis roared into the heart of the alien fleet, its weapons cutting down anything in its path. Its hull glowed with the power of 1,000 suns, and it showed no signs of stopping. Humanity had a weapon now, a relic that had returned not to be forgotten, but to prove that Earth would never surrender. The fight was on, and it was a fight the aliens never expected to face. The unknown edge. The Aegis sailed through space like a beast awakened from a long slumber, its ancient hull scared but still unyielding. The alien fleet had underestimated the power of humanity, and now they were paying the price. However, the real threat was still looming, something far more dangerous than the alien ships could have predicted. General Harris stood at the command center, his eyes scanning the holographic displays. The battle raged on outside, but he knew this was only the beginning. He could feel it in his bones. Something was about to change. "Report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos. The officer at his side, a young lieutenant, looked up from the monitor. "Sir, the Xalran reinforcements are on their way. We're receiving their fleet's coordinates now." Harris' stomach sank. He had suspected this. The Xalran Empire wasn't the type to back down easily. This battle, no matter how fierce, wasn't going to be won by a single strike. He glanced over at the Aegis's weapon systems, which had proven themselves formidable. But still, he couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens were holding something back. He turned to the lieutenant. "Initiate evasive maneuvers. Prepare for the worst. We're not done yet." But as the order left his lips, a massive ripple in space occurred. The first wave of alien reinforcements had arrived. "Contact. Multiple ships incoming. Fast." The sensor officer shouted. "Their size is enormous." Harris' heart skipped a beat as he watched the enormous vessels blink into existence in front of him. These were unlike anything they had seen before. Gigantic, sleek ships, their hulls black and imposing, appeared with the power to make even the Aegis seem small by comparison. The alien fleet had sent their heavy hitters. But the Xalran Empire was not known for its subtlety, and it was now that they showed their true nature. The new fleet was not here to make peace. It was here to crush humanity's will to fight. "General," one of the senior officers said, "the Aegis cannot face all of them head-on. We need backup." But Harris wasn't looking at the officers. His eyes were fixed on the enemy ships as they moved into battle formation. "We've fought before without backup. We're not stopping now." The Aegis broke from its position and zoomed forward, charging headlong into the heart of the oncoming Xalran fleet. The alien ships immediately began to open fire, their advanced energy beams streaking across space like flashes of lightning. The Aegis danced around the beams with deadly grace, its movements as fluid as water, its weapons retaliating in full force. Energy cannons fired, their beams cutting down alien vessels one by one. But as more and more enemy ships entered the fray, the Aegis began to feel the strain. Shields flickered, and the ship groaned under the pressure of the ongoing assault. Meanwhile, aboard the Aegis, General Harris and his crew worked in perfect synchronization, the result of years of training and a deep-rooted bond of survival. "We need to finish this quickly," Harris shouted as the ship rocked from another impact. "Target their lead ship." The lead Xalran vessel was massive, a dark titan in the midst of the chaos. Harris knew if they could bring it down, the rest of the fleet would lose their nerve. It was time to put all their strength into one final strike. Firing sequence initiated. The weapons officer called. Powering up the main cannon. The Aegis's main weapon, a relic of a forgotten age, had only been used sparingly, until now. The cannon charge, glowing bright as the immense energy built up. Harris braced himself as the ship trembled from the cannon's power, and with a resounding roar, the Aegis fired. The beam shot out, tearing through the vacuum of space, and it collided with the lead Salran ship with a force that shook the very stars. The alien vessel's shields flared brightly, and then collapsed under the force of the blast. The ship shuddered violently as the explosion ripped through its core, sending debris flying in all directions. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then the Salran fleet panicked. With their flagship gone, the remaining ships faltered. The vast enemy armada, once so confident in its victory, began to lose its composure. Alien commanders barked orders into their communication devices, but the humans were not done yet. The Aegis's offensive continued, each strike more precise than the last. But as the alien fleet faltered, something even darker began to unfold. A strange signal appeared on the sensors, a massive energy spike, unlike anything the humans had ever encountered before, pulsed through space. Harris frowned as he tried to make sense of the reading. "Sir, we're detecting a strange anomaly. It's not from the Salran fleet," the sensor officer said, confusion filling his voice. "Track it," Harris ordered, his mind racing. "What the hell is it?" The anomaly grew, expanding rapidly as it began to take form. A massive spherical object, much larger than anything the humans had ever seen, appeared in the distance. "This isn't an alien ship," Harris muttered, his voice tinged with dread. "Sir, the object is heading straight for us," the sensor officer cried. Suddenly, all eyes turned to the screen. The anomaly was moving faster than anything in their fleet could match, and it was coming straight for Earth. Before anyone could react, the object shot forward, faster than a comet, and the Aegis had no choice but to follow. The battle wasn't over, and the real fight was about to begin. The unseen enemy. As the anomaly grew closer, the Aegis and its crew faced an unknown terror that not even their most advanced weapons could prepare them for. The massive spherical object in the distance had been racing towards them with unimaginable speed, but its origin and purpose remained a complete mystery. General Harris, standing resolute at the helm, knew that their next move could decide the fate of humanity. "Report," Harris barked, his voice sharp, cutting through the growing tension in the command center. The sensor officer, his hands shaking slightly, quickly analyzed the data. "Sir, it's not showing up as a traditional ship. It's emitting energy signatures that don't match anything we've ever encountered. No propulsion system. It's almost like it's organic." Harris clenched his fists. The thought of an organic weapon sent chills down his spine. Humanity had faced countless challenges, but this was something new, something more terrifying than any alien race could have ever imagined. "Are we on a collision course?" Harris demanded, his voice steady despite the rising anxiety in his chest. The sensor officer nodded, eyes wide. "Yes, sir. It's heading straight for Earth, but it's moving too fast. We won't be able to intercept it with the Aegis alone." "Damn it," Harris muttered under his breath. He turned to the tactical officer. "What's the status of the fleet? How many ships do we have left in the area?" "Sir," the tactical officer replied, "the remaining alien ships are retreating, but they're still causing havoc. Their smaller ships are scattering, trying to regroup." Harris quickly made a decision. "Get our fleet to fall back to Earth's orbit. We need to protect the planet at all costs. Prepare for a defensive perimeter." Just as the order left his lips, the anomaly gave off a strange pulse of light, blinding them for a split second. Then, as if it were an answer to their question, the sphere seemed to shimmer and shift, revealing its true nature. The sphere wasn't merely a ship, it was something far more menacing. The moment it stopped its rapid advance, a sharp, powerful beam shot out from its center, cutting through the space surrounding it. The beam spiraled, tearing through space with an intensity that could vaporize an entire fleet in seconds. "It's firing. Get out of its line of sight," Harris shouted. But it was too late. The beam struck one of the retreating Solran ships, instantly disintegrating it in a flash of light. The force of the blast sent a shockwave through space, sending debris careening in every direction. The Aegis dodged the falling fragments, but the shockwave still rocked the ship, shaking everyone inside. "We need to stop that thing," Harris said, his heart racing. The alien fleet was one thing, but this new force was beyond anything they had encountered. It wasn't just an enemy ship, it was an extinction-level threat. "Sir, we're detecting multiple additional energy pulses from the anomaly," the sensor officer warned. "It's charging up again. It's not stopping." Harris looked at the screen, feeling a sense of helplessness as the energy signatures from the anomaly spiked once more. His mind raced for a solution, but the clock was ticking. They couldn't wait much longer. "We need to find out what makes this thing tick. It's not like anything we've ever seen," Harris said, his voice grim. He turned to his crew. "Prepare the Aegis to engage the anomaly. Get me a team on board the sphere now." The crew quickly sprang into action. Special Forces teams were mobilized to board the unknown object, using the ship's advanced technology to teleport a group of soldiers onto the sphere's surface. As the elite team disappeared into the unknown, the tension among the crew grew. Back on the surface of the Aegis, General Harris' mind never stopped racing. The ship was their last hope, but with an enemy unlike anything they had ever seen bearing down on them, even their most powerful weapon might not be enough. "General, the team reports in," the communications officer exclaimed. Harris held his breath. "Go ahead." The voice on the other end was frantic, filled with disbelief. "Sir, you won't believe this. The sphere is alive. It's not just a ship. It's a massive bioorganic entity. We've never seen anything like it. It's almost connected to the energy that powers the ship. There's no way to destroy it from the outside. The core is located deep within. We have to reach it." "Understood," Harris said, steeling himself. "We have one shot. Get them to that core and take it down." Just as the team began navigating the interior of the alien sphere, the Aegis continued to face the relentless barrage of beams fired by the entity. The situation was dire, and time was running out. The crew's bravery and humanity's resilience were the last defense against a threat they couldn't fully comprehend. Inside the alien sphere, the team fought their way through halls of pulsating organic material, each step taking them deeper into the heart of the enemy vessel. The walls seemed to shift, responding to their presence as if the ship itself were alive, aware of their intrusion. Finally, they reached the core, a massive glowing chamber where the energy from the anomaly seemed to gather, an intense, pulsing light at the center of it all. But the sight that greeted them was not what they had expected. The core was not just a source of power. It was a living entity, its tendrils reaching out to envelop the team. "Fire now," the commanding officer yelled, his voice filled with urgency. The soldiers opened fire, their weapons tearing into the core. But it seemed to do little. The alien entity fought back, its energy surging to protect itself. The crew on the Aegis watched helplessly as the team struggled inside the core. The battle had shifted from a war against an alien fleet to something far darker and more terrifying. And yet, in this moment of desperation, Harris felt something stir within him. Humanity had always risen to the challenge, and it was not about to stop now. "We will not fall," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "Not now. Not ever." The heart of the beast. The Aegis trembled in space, rocked by energy blasts from the strange alien sphere. Inside the craft, General Harris stood by the bridge's viewing screen, watching the battle unfold. His mind raced as the magnitude of their situation became clearer with each passing second. He had seen many crises in his career, but nothing like this. This wasn't just a war for survival. This was a war for existence itself. Humanity was up against something entirely new, something alive. "Sir, The communications officer broke the silence. "We've lost contact with the strike team inside the sphere. They're not responding." Harris clenched his jaw. It was a risk, a huge one. But it was the only option they had left. The Special Forces team had been their last hope to learn how to defeat the enemy from within. If they failed, Earth's defenses would crumble under the relentless assault of this living terror. "We're not giving up yet," Harris growled, his voice like steel. "Prepare a rescue mission. We're getting them out of there." Before the order could be fully executed, the entire ship lurched forward, as if the Aegis itself was being pulled by some unseen force. The crew scrambled to hold their positions, trying to maintain control, but the gravitational pull from the alien sphere was too strong. The massive warship groaned, its engines struggling to compensate. "Sir, we're being drawn in," the tactical officer shouted over the chaos. "The sphere's gravity field is expanding. We won't be able to hold our position much longer." Harris' heart raced. There was no choice now. If they didn't act quickly, they would be sucked into the heart of the beast itself. He turned to the navigation officer. "Engage thrusters at full power. We need to break free from the pull. Now." The Aegis engines roared to life, pushing the massive ship away from the sphere. But the gravitational force was relentless, and the warship was barely able to fight against it. "Damn it, we're going to get caught," Harris cursed, eyes glued to the screen as the distance between them and the anomaly narrowed. Just as the situation seemed hopeless, a voice came through the comms. It was one of the surviving soldiers from the strike team. "General, we've reached the core." The voice crackled with static. "But it's worse than we thought. The sphere is not just a weapon. It's a biological entity, a living organism designed to destroy. It's adapting. Every attack we make only makes it stronger." Harris' grip on the command console tightened. He had known it wouldn't be easy, but this was beyond anything they had prepared for. "Can you disable it?" he demanded, his voice urgent. The soldier's voice faltered. "We're trying, but we need help. We need access to its neural interface. It's the only way we can disable the core." The realization hit Harris like a thunderclap. If they didn't get to the neural interface, the sphere would continue its assault on Earth, and nothing short of total annihilation would stop it. "We're coming for you," Harris said firmly. "Hold on as long as you can. We'll find a way to get you out." The Aegis had no choice now but to make a direct approach into the sphere's gravitational field. They couldn't afford to wait any longer. "Get the rescue teams ready. We're going in." Harris' voice was calm, but the weight of the situation hung heavily on him. Inside the alien sphere, the strike team was down to only a handful of soldiers now, their once formidable numbers reduced by the unpredictable organic defenses of the sphere. As they moved deeper into the core, the structure around them seemed to pulse and contract, responding to their presence like a living creature. The walls were lined with tendrils, glowing with a sickly yellow light, curling and twisting as if alive. Every step they took was met with the ship's defenses trying to ensnare them. "Keep moving," their commanding officer shouted. "We need to reach the neural interface. It's our only chance." The team pushed forward, dodging energy blasts that seemed to emerge from the walls themselves, firing with pinpoint accuracy. The corridors they moved through seemed to shift and warp, constantly changing in response to their movements. It was as if the sphere was aware of their every action, adapting to their strategy. At last, they'd reached the central chamber. Inside, an enormous biomechanical structure stood, a massive, throbbing mass of pulsating veins and glowing fibers that seemed to be the heart of the beast. From its center, streams of energy shot out, feeding into the rest of the ship. The soldiers' weapons barely made a dent as they fired upon it, but the beast fought back, the energy blasts becoming stronger and more frequent. "We don't have much time," the commanding officer said. "We need to destroy this thing from the inside, or Earth is finished." But before they could act, the structure emitted a deafening roar. A dark, ominous figure emerged from the shadows, a massive, semi-organic guardian that seemed to be a protector of the core. The soldiers exchanged worried glances. They had known there would be challenges, but nothing like this. "Brace for impact," the officer ordered, just as the creature lunged toward them. Outside the sphere, the Aegis continued to fight its way closer to the sphere's heart, despite the increasing gravitational pull. Harris watched the rescue mission unfold on the screen, knowing full well that the fate of humanity rested on a small group of soldiers facing an enemy they barely understood. "General," the communications officer said, "we got incoming reinforcements. The rest of the fleet is coming in hot, but they're still a distance away. We have to hold them off for as long as we can." Harris took a deep breath. It was too late to pull back now. They had no choice but to press on. Every moment counted. "Prepare the ship for an assault," Harris ordered. "We're going in." As the Aegis barreled toward the heart of the alien beast, its crew knew that this would be the final battle. No matter the cost, no matter the sacrifice, they had to destroy the heart of the enemy and save Earth. The war wasn't over, but it would be decided in the next few moments. And with that determination burning in their hearts, the crew of the Aegis prepared to face their final test. The awakening. The darkness of the alien sphere seemed to close in around the Aegis. Inside, the hum of the ship's engines was all that filled the space, a constant reminder of the battle that loomed just ahead. General Harris stood at the bridge, his eyes fixed on the holographic map in front of him. The alien ship was not just an enemy. It was an evolving nightmare. It adapted to every attack, countered every strategy, and seemed to anticipate their every move. But Harris refused to accept defeat. Not now. Not when so much was at stake. "Status report," Harris barked, his voice tight with frustration. "Sir, we're almost in position," the communications officer responded. "But we can't risk getting too close. The gravity field is messing with our systems." "Then we do what we do best," Harris said, a grim smile tugging at his lips. "We improvise." Inside the sphere, the strike team was barely holding on. The creature, the living guardian, had proven to be far more than they could handle. It was a towering mass of sinewy muscle and alien technology, its eyes glowing with an unnatural intensity. With each strike from the team's weapons, it seemed to grow stronger, its skin hardening against their attacks. It was clear now, this wasn't just a weapon. It was a part of the sphere itself, a manifestation of its will to survive. "Retreat," the team leader ordered, his voice full of urgency. "Fall back to the staging area." But even as they turned, they found themselves cornered by the relentless creature. The walls of the corridor seemed to close in on them, narrowing until there was no way out. "Where the hell is our backup?" one of the soldiers muttered, his hand gripping his weapon tightly. "They're coming," the team leader replied. "But we have to hold out. We can't let the core activate. If we fail..." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of the truth. They were the last line of defense, and failure wasn't an option. The creature lunged forward, and the soldiers braced for impact. But just as it was about to strike, a sharp, blinding light filled the corridor. The team shielded their eyes, and when the light subsided, they saw something they hadn't expected. A massive blast had hit the creature from the outside. It was the Aegis. General Harris, the team leader, whispered, a sense of hope returning to his eyes. "They've come." Outside the sphere, the Aegis's weapons fired again, a series of concentrated energy blasts designed to penetrate the sphere's outer defenses. The beams collided with the alien structure, sending shockwaves through the ship. The Aegis was now in range, close enough to deploy its full arsenal. "Full power to the main cannon," Harris ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Target the neural core." The massive energy cannon on the Aegis charged, a brilliant blue light illuminating the darkness of space. The ship fired, and the energy blast shot toward the sphere, colliding with its heart. The sphere's surface shuddered as if in pain, its defenses weakening for the first time. Harris felt a spark of hope. Direct hit, the tactical officer reported, watching the readings. But it's not enough. The core is still functioning at full capacity. Damn it, Harris muttered. We need to hit it harder. Inside the sphere, the strike team moved swiftly, their weapons aimed at the creature that guarded the core. The creature shrieked, a sound that reverberated through the walls. It lunged again, but this time the team was ready. They fired in unison, their shots hitting the creature with precise accuracy. The creature staggered, finally succumbing to the relentless barrage of firepower. Keep moving, the team leader shouted. We've got one shot at this. They reached the neural interface. It was a massive pulsing organ at the center of the sphere, glowing with an eerie light. The soldiers' weapons weren't enough to destroy it, but the team leader had something more powerful in mind. We've got to plant the charge, he said. This will shut it down permanently. He placed a small, high-tech device on the interface, then backed away quickly. The team waited for the countdown, their breaths shallow as the seconds ticked by. Just as the timer reached 0, a deafening explosion rang out. The neural interface shattered, sending shockwaves through the sphere. The alien ship trembled. We've done it, the team leader said, allowing himself a moment of triumph. But it was short-lived. We've got to get out of here, another soldier urged, fear creeping into his voice. It's going to collapse. Outside the sphere, the explosion rocked the entire sphere. For a brief moment, everything was silent. Then, the Aegis received the transmission from the strike team. General, we've disabled the core. The team leader said, his voice full of relief. But the sphere is collapsing. We need immediate extraction. Hold on, we're coming, Harris responded, his heart racing as he ordered the Aegis into position. They had minutes, maybe seconds, to rescue them before the entire structure came down. The Aegis fired its thrusters, cutting through the gravitational pull of the sphere. They had to move fast, but the alien ship wasn't giving up without a fight. The remaining alien ships swarmed around them, firing everything they had. But the Aegis was relentless. With each blast, it pushed forward, getting closer to the strike team. Ready the boarding pods, Harris ordered. Prepare for immediate extraction. As the Aegis locked onto the strike team's location, the final pieces of the battle fell into place. The destruction of the core had sent the alien sphere into chaos, but it wasn't over yet. The Aegis would need to fight until the very end to ensure Earth's survival. The final moment. The Aegis moved in for the final extraction, its powerful engines roaring as the crew gave everything they had. The alien ships were relentless, but they were no match for the Aegis now that the core was destroyed. The remaining alien forces retreated, leaving the sphere to collapse in on itself. With seconds to spare, the last of the strike team was pulled aboard the Aegis. The moment they were safe, Harris ordered the ship to retreat, putting distance between them and the crumbling alien structure. As they pulled away from the wreckage, Harris stood at the command station, staring out at the destruction. The threat was over. Earth had been saved, but he knew this was only the beginning. There were still countless unknowns in the universe, and humanity was now more determined than ever to face them head-on. We've done it, Harris said quietly, his voice full of resolve. But we'll be ready for whatever comes next. And as the Aegis sailed back toward Earth, the crew knew one thing for certain. Humanity had won. But they had just begun to awaken to the vast, dangerous, and wondrous universe that lay before them. The war for survival had ended, but the true adventure was only beginning.